It'd be pretty nice to be Amish.
I wonder what the Amish do have, because I'm always surprised at like the workarounds. They're like, yeah, no, we're off your electrical grid. We have our own generators. And I'm like, wait, what? I thought you were in the dark or something.
It depends what kind you get, because there's like a lot of them in central Missouri too. And there's the Amish who are like the legit, when they tell you we don't use electricity, like the only loophole they have is like some of them will be like, I have like an online posting and that like will direct people to a cell phone for like making, where they can call me and say like, I need furniture. And then I make the furniture for them. The Mennonites are the other group where they're like half in, half out, where they're like, yeah, we're mostly like the Amish, but we use trucks. Yeah, and we use cars, and yeah, we don't get crazy colors on our cars. We do have a TV, and it's like you guys are just poor.
No. The Mennonites are cool. Like every time I've
built
ever
my grandparents'
met one,
house. Yeah.
I've done business with the Mennonites a few times. I needed some pigs one time for a video, and we found Mennonites in Tennessee. They were a little upset about what we were doing, but I donated to their church, and that sweetened the deal up just nicely enough that they gave me the pigs anyway. And several other times we'd stop on those roadside places. We were up in Ohio, and we saw Amish. They were like actual Amish up above Cincinnati or below. I don't know which. I get lost in the middle of the country on those drives. But these people, I met one guy, and he explained that he had like cousins that were like closer to the Stone Age, but he was about as close to like the modern age as you could get, while still, I was like, well, how do you farm? He's like, well, I have a tractor. I was like, well, how do you sell that? He's like, well, I don't own it. I don't, the John Deere, they own the tractor. They hold the note. I operate a tractor. Nothing wrong with that as far as we see it. And he had suppressors and like AR-15s and shit. Like he's getting like tax stamp guns. That's how I was meeting him, because he was like, he worked at a gun place. That's what he was doing for like white man money, English money. I'll call it. That's funnier. English money. Everything I know about the Amish really comes from that Tim Allen movie, though. Remember that? Kirstie Alley, rest in peace.
I never watched that. No,
you never saw that? Okay, so there's a great Tim Allen movie where he's like a Wall Street type guy, and he's been framed for some insider trading, and like the FEC and the feds are coming for him. They're chasing him. Maybe the U.S. Marshals too. It's a whole thing. And he's been framed, so he flees and hides amongst the Amish with Kirstie Alley. I think she's his wife. And they're both used to a much fancier lifestyle, but they have to become Amish. And I guess Tim Allen did a bit of a body transformation for the movie, because early on he's regular Tim Allen, but by the end he like flexes like while they're building a barn Amish style, and he's pretty ripped up Tim Allen. He looked pretty good. I was like, all right, good for you, Tim Allen. It's a fun little like comedy movie
for richer or poorer.
There you go.
Yeah, a year and a half ago, I did this mid-Atlantic backcountry discovery route motorcycle trip. Cool, me and my friends. And motorcyclists, when they pass each other, they do this thing where they wave and they put two fingers down. I guess it means "What's up, brother?" But it originally meant like, to keep the wheels down, like rubber side down or something like that. Cool. So when I pass someone, I do two fingers down for a motorcycle. I do three if it's a trike, and if it's a horse, I do four. And we passed so many horses, I got to bust out the four all the time.
Wow.
Through Pennsylvania Dutch country.
I'm trying to find a list of rules that the Amish have to follow, but not a robust online presence.
Have you seen the shit that Hasidic Jews do to make sure that they don't violate the Sabbath? Because on the Sabbath in Judaism, you're not allowed to use any sort of power, any sort of electric, any sort of anything. And so they have like, Rube Goldberg machines. Goldberg, that's funny. Rube Goldberg machines. And it'll basically be like, all right, well, we can't possibly, press the elevator door. God would be upset by this. But if I put a bean in this basket and it happens to pull a lever down that goes around and presses the elevator door, then God's not looking. And it's like, do you really think God would be like, if God's real and he's up there looking, do you think he's like, these sons of bitches figured out a loophole? Or do you think he's going, asshole, you're not obeying my law. Fuck you. You're circumventing what the edict that I gave to you.
I didn't know this, because it sounded like you were describing Amish to me at first, and their rules about not being able to use certain automated stuff. I've never met a Jew who did that.
No, it's only Hasidic and some more extreme Orthodox Jews.
Yeah,
Like not the average Orthodox Jew does not do this. Hasidic Jews do this, and like they're not as dedicated as the Amish, I guess, because the Amish are like all day, every day, like fucking no. The only way to use the internet is job postings. Like that's the one thing the Amish allowed the internet for is like job posting and putting yourself out there, because even the Amish were like, we got to get online. Like even they realized it.
Even the Amish find ways around.
1 day a week they do that.
Yeah, the Amish even find ways around it though, because like they they're very letter of the law when it comes to a lot of that stuff. So like I've been to Amish country and worked with some of those people before, and like I was asking them about it, and he's like, yeah, I have a tractor, and I was like, how do you get around that? Because I watched that Tim Allen movie. Nobody had a tractor. They were all fucking shoveling out there, and he's like, well, I don't own it. I let the John Deere place hold the note. I paid it off, except for $1. So technically, I don't own a tractor. I just use one. And I was like, that's interesting. And he's like, well, and I've got a phone. And it's like, well, how can you have a phone? Well, it's not on my property. Do
they not understand equity in the Amish community?
No, they will not enjoy any equity. He owned a phone. Wasn't on his property, though. It was at the end of the driveway, like a mailbox in a little, it looked like an outhouse or something. He had a little phone out there. And the guy had...
Not an Amish.
No, this guy was Amish. No, his kids were out there in prairie garb, fucking. Yeah,
Mennonites do that too.
The Mennonites in Georgia don't. This guy was Amish. Like that was made clear. Like the Mennonites are pretty middle of the road. Like they're out there making blankets.
They have cars
and jam and stuff like that. Cars. But the Amish are fucking hardcore with that stuff. I wouldn't want to live like that. I don't know. That would be awful. I've seen those documentaries about the Amish young. When you're a kid, they get this period of time where they can go into the real world and see what that's all about. And then and then they come back and make their decision. And they had this one Amish kid they were following, and he had like shacked up with a bunch of other Amish cast outs, and they were all living in a trailer. And he's in there like fucking playing PlayStation 2 and drinking Mountain Dew and shit and loving it. Well, he gets into crystal meth, and he starts owing some crystal meth dealer a lot of money. So he has to go back to the Amish place and live on the farm to hide from the meth dealer. So he's got 2 car batteries set up in his bedroom, and he's got the PS2 hooked up to him somehow, and he's in there fucking playing PS2 off of DC power. It was absurd. But all the Amish kids were like having these like
single player games. No
connectivity. No, but they would have these barn parties, which sound pretty lame, but they're like raves. They're in there they're all doing drugs, and there's like techno music and flashing lights. Like it's a perfect example of if you take any kid, and you really hold them back. You don't let them experience anything, whether it's alcohol or seeing a titty or whatever, and then all of a sudden you turn them loose. They were just going buck wild. I mean, the guy was into crystal meth he was a young kid.
It's like also an argument against that, because the overwhelming majority of Amish kids who go on Rumspringa come back.
I've heard that.
Like that's their point to say, no, I'm leaving. But you can also attribute some of that to the fact that it's like, am I going to abandon my family?
Exactly.
Like everyone I've known my entire life? Like, no, I can't just leave and no longer be a part of their existence. Like,
do you think they're having a lot of sex?
Yes, so much.
Do you know how many kids those fuckers have?
No, during Rumspringa. Do you think they're slutting around?
I would imagine so, probably.
Yeah.
Everyone says lots. Okay. Yeah, it might be my, out-of-date mind or something. But I'm like, if you went out and played PlayStation and drank Mountain Dew and even did crystal meth or something, then that would just be a thing you did. But if you fucked 19 guys that year, then came back, you put that on your permanent record.
You know what would be funny is to like have a documentary crew film them and see how they react to non-white people, because they've only hung out with white people their entire lives. Like the first time they come across an Asian or a Mexican or a black person or whatever, like that's got to be kind of weird for them, right? Like that was their whole life.
You're a son of Ham.
Oh shit! You are a son of Ham. you think they lead with that when they talk to black people?
Stand back, son of Ham! Do not corrupt me. What the fuck did he say?
Do not corrupt me. She's in her bonnet and hoop dress or whatever the fuck they did back then. Yeah, I feel like Amish people are probably happier than we are.
Oh, for sure.
Like at the end of the day, like living with their family, living off the land, only doing shit on the internet when they absolutely have to. Like they've got to be way happier than us.
I guarantee they are. They absolutely have to be. And you know what? That's one of the very few groups that I feel like deserve that religious tax exemption.
Like when I'm up north, like in Amish country, and I see one of those buggies, I'm like, well, let's take our time too. Yeah. I mean, look how happy those fuckers. The girl's crying though. They do all look sad and downtrodden. Really
her father discovered her missing hymen, and now she's headed to the gallows in the middle of town. Or whatever.
I don't think they're as hardcore as they're made out to be. You know, they do have that whole thing where they're like, "All right, you guys are 15. You go out into the regular people world and see how things go for you." I watched a great documentary about that once. It's hilarious.
Think it was accurate, or was it like?
Well, it was like I think it was. It followed like a bunch of people who were doing it. You know, they were like embedded with the Amish, and this guy had like went out and he was living with a couple of other like Amish rejects or whatever you want to call them, escapees in this RV, and he had a PlayStation 2 and he was loving it. He loved PlayStation 2. He also loved meth though.
I'm very suspicious of any like Homespringer documentary. I think it's a neat idea for a show. I also think it's just less realistic than almost any other premise I can come up with.
Why? I mean, they're definitely going to be punching up the amount of drugs and sex they do on their time off, for sure, because otherwise, I assume most of them aren't going that hog wild, but they can't follow someone be kind of, naughty. You have to go
This kid owed a drug dealer, and the drug dealer was after him, so he had to go back to the Amish house that he was from. So he had snuck his PlayStation 2 and a car battery, and he was somehow making that work, the PlayStation 2, in secret. It was great.
He's like yelling at a donkey to keep walking outside. Mandy, keep going!
How did he do that? Did they cover like low-grade electrical engineering in his home school in Amishville? I just don't see it.
I agree with you, Woody, that like it's totally punched up because apparently like 95 or higher % of those people go back to live as Amish,
and
so clearly they're not all going crazy with meth.
And you don't take an Amish person, drop them in Vegas, and get a good show. They'll probably like go to the bookstore and hang out in their own hotel or something.
It's called Devil's Playground.
Devil's Playground.
Yeah, it won the 2001 Sony DV Cam Fest, the documentary category overall grand prize.
The Sony DVD Cam Fest in the documentary category?
Absolutely. I'm not special mention in documentary category in 2002, okay? The awards are too long to well, I could read both of them, but I won't.
If you think I'm not going to check this out now,
dude, I love
another thing coming.
The cover of it is awesome. I'm about to show it to everyone. There's this chick lighting up a cigarette with her Amish little cap on.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I would think that cigarettes would be allowed by the Amish, where you'd have to roll your own, but
but as long as you grow your own tobacco, right?
Yeah, I feel like they'd be like, okay, all right, none of this filter stuff. We're smoking it Band of Brothers style. Bastogne hiding in a cold pit style, which is the coolest way to smoke a cig after you've just been bombed by the Nazis and you survived.
I bet they do enjoy their lives, though. I bet those are some of the happiest people.
Oh, they are, definitely.
Living in that little community, everybody's super friendly. You don't know any better, I guess. You don't have any of the modern world issues that everybody else has. What do they do when they get sick? Do you think like if you get like colon cancer and you're Amish, like do they just pray about it, or do they send you into the real world to like, what do they do?
Yeah, I feel like at some point they got to be like, babe, we know fucking wheatgrass isn't going to solve this. Let's go to a doctor. I've been putting leeches all over myself. Nothing's working.
I saw a documentary once and they were making shingles. The Amish makes shingles?
Yeah.
They keep sawing the end of a log off into thin wafers over and over and over. The log's like 40 feet long, and he's cutting a 1/4 inch of it off at a time. And it looked excruciating. It's like, can't we just trade that log for some shingles?
Yeah. You get one guy out here with a chainsaw. This is done in 15 minutes. But no,
they're using that
manually
old-timey big tooth Paul Bunyan bullshit.
I bet those guys are like the epitome of farmer strong, though.
Yeah, they've got to be super fit and smelly, wearing all those clothes all the time. You never see them in short sleeves.
Can you imagine eating an Amish bitch's snatch? Ugh.
Oh, so musty.
Do you think they have, Gillette Venus?
Hell no, they don't.
They've got sheep shears.
And they need them.
They must have some kind of razors because none of those guys have mustaches. That's the biggest gripe I have with it, is getting rid of the mustache and keeping the beard. You look ridiculous, man. Come on.
Do you think that the girls just have big hairy bushes?
Oh, yeah.
I bet they got just
100%.
moist.
There's no way.
By the way,
moist,
I'm not
dank
finding anything
pussies.
that says this thing is fake. Like, I was so sure it was. So I might have been wrong.
Yeah, they've definitely got big bushes. There's no way the Amish ladies are shaving their snatches.
Yeah, no fucking way, dude. Absolutely not.
You know what kind of beating you would get when your father checks you every night?
Yeah, when you have your bi-weekly pussy inspection and he finds out that you've been, handing out strange to all the farmer boys, you're going to get beat. And rightfully so.
Your beaver is naked, Diane!
I Googled, do Amish women shave their pubic hair? And the link was already purple. I've looked into this before, I guess.
Maybe we have been doing this show too long. Yeah, I would love to try being Amish. In my head, I'm like, man, it'd be cool to try being Amish for like a month. And I guarantee like 27 minutes in, I'm going to be like, I'm so bored. I'm so understimulated. I didn't realize how addicted I am to the dopamine of immediate gratification from Netflix and Hulu and all of these things.
Yeah. Did you ever see the Tim Allen movie where he does just that?
No.
He gets he's like I don't remember the details, but for some reason he's got to flee the law. Like he's been framed for some sort of tax fraud.
You're talking about Jungle the Jungle for a second.
No. He gets framed for some crime, and so he goes and accidentally kind of hides out with the Amish. Like he sort of falls into place, and they're like, "Oh, are you cousin Marcus?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm cousin Marcus. Why are you wearing those clothes?" It's a long story. We've had a tough journey. Do you have anything? And he just falls right into place, pretending like he's cousin Marcus or whatever, and he becomes Amish. Meanwhile, of course, the Amish people know that he's not cousin Marcus. They're just like, the elder is like, we're going to help these poor people out.
Just being friendly.
But along the way, Tim Allen's waking up at 3 a.m. and everything. And by the end of it, he's flexing this big ass muscle he's made, plowing the fields and building barns. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
As far as Tim Allen movies go.
I wonder if more women have
good.
happy trails than we know, and they just manscape it some way.
I mean,
are we still talking about the Amish, or is this general?
I just thought maybe the Amish would be a more target-rich environment for those weirdos that like happy trails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Italian women?
It's not that I was disgusted with that girl because she had a happy trail.
Go on.
I was disgusted because she didn't do anything about it.
And the dick.
Taylor's so judgy.
Same premise. I wasn't disgusted by the dick. I was disgusted that she hadn't done anything about it yet.
See, all joking aside, we've been teasing for years. I thought she was hot because she was hot. And the happy trail was really just something such a small part of the overall package. This woman was a professional whitewater rafting guide, right? She worked out 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. She had very low body fat. She's just a super fit woman. And
she could pick a 6-man raft up over on her head and walk with it.
Yeah. She was just like 1%er in terms. She's like a fitness chick, pretty much. And she had a happy trail. And to me, it was like, oh, well, of all the nitpicks, I could let that go easily.
How do you think she would have reacted if I'd have went doink and plucked one out?
I think she'd have kicked all our asses.
Happy trail out.
I think she'd have beat the shit out of me right there.
Me, Chiz. It was a real problem if you had done
I think I'd have gone in the water. I think I'd have gone in the water.
Man, but she has to know that's there.
Oh, she knows.
She has to know that it's there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think she had hairy armpits too. Am I crazy or I make that up?
I think if I tried hard enough, I could imagine hairy armpits, but I don't remember them.
Yeah, women with hairy armpits, they're not like guy armpits. They're 1/8 of a guy hair armpit.
Yeah, they're wispy.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot there.
especially if
Still
they've never
hard
shaved them
pass.
before. Like, yeah, still hard pass. Same with the leg hair. Like, I've seen girls with leg hair, and it's like, ooh, let's.
If you made me the deal, Woody, you've got 2 girls here. One's fine and does not have a happy trail. And this one has a happy trail, but a flat tummy and a tight ass. Who do you want? Thankfully, my wife is not on the internet at all, really. She lives an offline life, so.
Must be nice.
Isn't that a great thing when you meet a girl and like you talk about internet stuff and they're like, yeah, I don't really do that as much. And you're like, oh, bless your heart.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it because it means that the people who watch this show don't have a reach to her.
Yeah,
that's true too.
I bounce back and forth between I want you to be up to date with internet culture, but I don't want you to be the same level as me. Like, I want to be able to show you my favorite memes and you can appreciate them for what they are, but you're not like, oh, I've already seen that. I saw that when it came out. Don't talk to me. You know what I mean? I want a tasteful amount of internet content needs to be consumed. I can't do Amish. If you're Amish, I can't have sex with you or date you.
Well, they probably wouldn't.
Okay, no, they would during that like because Amish people, they go on that like crazy
wild.
Bananas thing,
right?
For like a couple months. Or
Amish
like,
Gone Wild. It's a reality show.
Wait, you just made me think. You know how we have like Naked and Afraid, where you take people from like Middle America and you put them on an island naked and afraid? Can we do like
clothed and comfortable,
like plugged in and up to date, where we take Amish people and we put them into like the middle of New York with all of the cell phones and porn they could want? And
they did that.
Like,
there was a reality TV thing. I think it was exposed as fake, but that's like a real thing. Like
it's called a Rumspringa.
Yeah. And they spend, is it a year, Taylor? How long do they get to go?
Yeah, it's a year that they spend. I'm on the Wikipedia page. I don't know this off the top of my head. It's a year that they spend outside of the group to make sure that they want to return to being Amish or Mennonite or whatever.
That's
and
nice. That's
almost all of them go back.
That's nice to give them the option, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like
they get to make an educated choice, right?
Yeah, but then the fact that almost all of them go back is worrying because it maybe signifies a little bit of long-term abuse.
No, I think a lot of it is like they've got a much more pure and simple view of the world. And to someone who hasn't been exposed to the stuff we see online or in pop culture, that would be shocking and seem like very degenerate and upsetting in a way. Like, and after a year of that, I don't, and also their families there, you know? And so I would think that after a year, a good deal of them would be like, oh man, well, this was a fun year, but I like the way we live.
The same thing happens in the Catholic Church. The priests have sex with adult women for a year, but almost all of them go back to young boys.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
I don't think there's a very big crossover between the priests who are fucking adult women and the ones who are fucking young boys.
Yeah, they just try it on for size to see if that's their preference.
Diagrams that don't match. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, does anybody else have a Bible story?
No, but I appreciate that you brought it. That was really good.
Woody, you got to be careful. All those Catholics up at YouTube are going to cancel us.
The state of Utah has denied Woodworth. You're never going to be able to go to Salt Lake ever again.
Are there Catholics in Utah?
No, it's Mormons.
It's all Mormons.
Yeah.
But all the Mormons, like, I mean, obviously not all of them. I'm sure some of them take it like really defensive, but every Mormon I've ever met, and I met a lot when I lived in Idaho, like they would take little jokes that people threw at them. You know, I didn't really feel comfortable joking at Mormons' expense because I didn't grow up around Mormons, and I'm like, I didn't even know enough to really address it. But like other people who grew up in Boise or Salt Lake would like make little jokes at the Mormons, their magic underwear, and their 4,000 people and planets and all that shit. And every single time they'd just be like, it's just a belief system that I think works really well for our family, but I can see where you're coming from. It does seem silly. And it's like, damn it. Do you guys take like a how to get out of bullying class? And now guys, agree and amplify. Repeat after me. Agree and amplify. It's just funny. And they were such good-hearted people. Even the magic underwear guy, like I heard someone make fun of him. He was like, he rolls off his back, doesn't care. He has ultimate conviction in his beliefs, and it's like that
he
must
doesn't
be
get
really
mad.
Cool. Yeah, doesn't get pissy.
Very strong sperm, that group of people.
It's the fucking strongest.
Very potent.
Man.
Yeah.
Like we need to be doing studies on Mormons'
It's
balls.
like 6, 7 each, and they're just like out here solving the lowered birth rate issue that first world countries have.
It's like single-handedly, the Mormons and the Amish are like, we can do it.
They're like, more of us, more of them.
This is the Amish. They don't have lights, right? Or they only have lanterns?
Don't have light. The Amish. So I grew up near Amish country, so Amish country really is big in southern Pennsylvania, and I was in like northern Maryland area. So the Amish, generally speaking, the ones that I got to interact with, were just not necessarily using any sort of technology, whether it was electricity or cell phones or computers, regularly. What that does mean is that the heads of the household did have that, because that was kind of the way that you would interact with the modern world. So like child slavery, all that shit, where they're building good furniture with like Candace, who's like 7. All that definitely happened. But, the money's got to go to the bank account somewhere. So there were people that did interact with the modern world in that way, and you did see them like go to the grocery store. It wasn't that they were against like refrigeration, right? It was just a very tight lifestyle. And there's another group, not the Amish, the
Mennonites.
Mennonites, yes. And you used to see them in a fucking
nearby.
mob at like Hershey Park. And you could always tell because they dressed like the Pilgrims, but the Mennonites were like the cool Amish, where they were just like, yeah, we'll just kind of stick to our beliefs, but also roller coasters. And so, like, it would be the entirety of the park would be like Mennonite Mondays, and it was just like,
do you guys get everywhere by horseback? No, but the car has to be black.
Yeah, exactly.
That is not a restrictive rule.
It's like Hasidic Jews who you'd be like, I lived off of Fairfax Avenue in LA, and every single night the sun's going down, and you just see a legion of Hasidic Jewish kids shredding on Razor scooters, because once the sun goes down, or they can't use like vehicles or some shit, I can't remember.
Yeah.
So like just in full garb, dressed to the tens, looking real fancy, but with Razor scooters.
The elevator thing?
No.
So I don't know if it's Hasidic or Orthodox. So I'm half right, but they don't work on Saturdays, and apparently pressing an elevator button is working. So many places in New York, the elevator just stops on every floor on Saturdays, and it's a pain in the ass.
I don't know if it's Hasidic or Orthodox, but I mean, it's the same thing of like, you can't actively engage in using the working like system, but like if it just so happens to be doing it anyways, like so be it.
I was watching a Twitch streamer, and he mentioned that Amish don't have lights in their house, and I was like, no way, because I know they have like some cheats, right? Like generators and stuff.
Yeah.
And I googled it, and it appeared that he was right.
Maybe
they only have gas lanterns at best.
I know that it is part of that region. You definitely can end up in a situation where each Amish kid coming of age is given like some amount of support and like, go experience the world. You've got a year, which is kind of like, Rumspringa. You might think to yourself is like, oh, at least they get to decide for themselves. But imagine being sheltered as shit, and then all of a sudden your parents like, all right, go run free in southern Pennsylvania and figure out if you like it better than the structure you've known your whole life. Like, they're not having a great time.
Oh,
you don't think?
And most of them don't come back. Or
most of them come back, yeah. But like, you'll see videos of
no one swipes right on guys. I'm coming back.
No, but like
Lancaster County.
I distinctly remember. You're right. It's Lancaster. I distinctly remember a friend of mine showing me like a video from a house party that he was at in Amish country, and them just like drinking beers in like a cabin or whatever. And every time he'd like put the camera up, the people would be like, no, stop. Like, he was just like, it was very weird. Very weird.
Stealing my soul. That would be so funny if Amish people in America in modern day thought you were stealing their soul when you took photos of them.
Progressive Amish.
Yeah. I don't know what group that is, but there is a group that thinks.
I think
maybe that was one of those
old
unexplored
Central American.
It was definitely a joke.
A tribe or something.
Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, stealing souls with pictures.
Yeah. That the Aboriginal would think that's what it was, and then he was just like, I know what a camera is. Like,
yeah, they're like, you can't take my picture, and they're like, are you afraid it'll steal your soul? And he's like, the lens cap is on. That's
what it is. He made a ton of money off that, Paul Hogan, because I want to say he like produced it and maybe like wrote and directed too or something like that. So it's one of those, and it became like the third biggest movie that year. It may have been one of those years where like Back to the Future came out or something like that, one of those huge blockbusters. But Crocodile Dundee made like, I don't know, $100 million or so or something like that. Jeez. And he like got it all. It's like he's like, yeah, 100 million. That's what I made.
I like it when they do that. When they're like, hey, I'll tell you what, you can have $1 million or 10% of the profits. What do you want? And they roll the dice on the profits and it's Star Wars or something.
Yeah.
Well, there's a couple good ones like that, but also you can get the ones that are like, hey, it's got to be the worst for everybody involved. It becomes like a cult classic. So I was recently, I'm sure you heard of Don't Look Up, the Netflix movie.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was pretty good, but obviously for me and for a lot of people in our who kind of grew up in the mid 2000s, Idiocracy was the one that did that to a T earlier. And so I looked it up. Idiocracy grossed $500,000 internationally and domestically in the box office, while also having a $2.5 million budget. And I was like, it's very hard to find out like how much money did you make after the fact, because somebody owns the rights to that. I don't know.
How's the long tail on that?
Yeah. What's the long tail views on that? What's the CPM on this shit? But like, I mean, seriously, it's a good question. So I couldn't find anything about it, but this is a movie that if I explained or mentioned it, I would assume that 80% of my friends would know what I'm talking about. And so it's one of those things that's definitely way bigger than the sum of its parts, but it was a failure through and through when it first came out.
Yeah, a lot of movies become cult classics like that. I was aware of Idiocracy. I only watched it last year, or maybe last year. Yeah, I knew who was in it and what it was about and the premise, but it always just looked goofy to me.
Everybody else, pretty much every other religious group with their in Atlanta, like I drive past these mega churches all the time, dude. We would need to like Google the pictures for you to even understand what I'm talking about. Like, I'm sure we've all driven past a nice country club or been to one, and we've seen the extravagance that can be spent there by 50 millionaires who want a playground. Nothing like these mega churches.
I used to go to a mega church. Yeah, I know. There were like 15,000 members.
Yeah, it's absurd what they have. Like, the parking lot has buses like it's Six Flags to get you into the place. Like, you're parking so far away. There's this fountain at one near me, and when I say fountain, I mean a lake that has geysers of water coming out of it out front. It's ridiculous. The thing is, I don't know how tall. Like, you can't measure it in floors because it's not an office building. It's like a goddamn cathedral. Forgive me, Lord. And it's just huge. It looks like the Sydney Opera House or something, like that kind of construction that's just overly extravagant and ridiculous.
Yeah. It's so over the that was one of the first things that even as a child turned me off to religion, where I was like, I remember I was in it wasn't a Sunday service. It was like a Thursday night service or some shit. And I was there with my mom and dad and family. And they like live streamed and like not actually live streamed, like they watched on some like closed circuit television shit, like some debate between a Christian and an atheist. And of course the whole time everybody's like woohooing every Christian point and everything. And in between, in the middle of the debate with like, all right, we're going to have a little break here and let the debaters do whatever the fuck. And then they did something where they were like, and we also are going to pass something around just because we really need a new projector for our youth room. We need a brand new projector, which is about $7,000. And even at like the age of a young fucking age, I was like, are you shitting me? Are you shitting me? This is the nicest building I've been in my entire life. And you need a new projector? The one that you were just showing the PowerPoint on, not good enough. You need a new projector so you can do this. It's like there are actual people struggling in the world, and you're doing this. Like that really opened my eyes a bit to that shit.
Someone convinced me to be an atheist, right? So I was like agnostic pretty much atheist for a long time, right? And like so many people in my position, we just say like, yeah, well, just waiting for a little evidence, a little something that wouldn't be explained some other way, right? If you pray that it rains tomorrow and it rains tomorrow, I'm not calling God in on, as conclusive proof. Give me something. So this guy says this. He says, what if I put a quarter in my hand, right? I had a quarter in my hand and I'm going to turn it upside down and hope it doesn't fall, right? So for starters, I pray it doesn't. How do you think it's going to work out? You think that quarter's still going to fall? You think it'll obey the laws of gravity? What if we all pray? What if everyone in this room prays and we get 300 people praying together and then I turn my hand over? Will the quarter still fall? What if there's 15,000 people? What if the entire planet gets together and prays in sync that quarter won't fall? Everyone listening to that, we know that fucking quarter's going to fall. There's no chance that your prayer is going to stop a quarter from falling from the air.
Do you want to know the Christian answer to that?
God willed it to fall? Go ahead.
No. The Christian answer would be Luke 4:12, which is, do not put the Lord your God to the test.
Well,
which means
what?
Don't set any sort of boundaries that are possibly quantifiable. Like, don't put anything in there that's possibly quantifiable, because that would be putting the Lord your God.
Well, there's a whole lot when you view it through a suspicious lens that doesn't quite add up, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Never test me. Give me your money. Don't tax me. It just goes on and on and on. And the standard of proof for religion is so low. And the standard of proof for, like, disproving
everything else
so high.
It's called faith for a reason, right? Like, what would the point be if God made quarters not fall?
Well,
everybody would sign up.
That's a quandary I have with the entire thing, is that faith is named as a gift that God gives to people. And so if God gave Woody's dad or mom faith and did not give me faith, he's setting the board. He's playing the game. He's manipulating the outcome by his own. The same point that is made with hardening of Pharaoh's heart. Over and over, he actively hardens Pharaoh's heart, because any rational person, like any Pharaoh, would have been like, honestly, we don't need you that much. 2,000 years from now, they're going to look back and go, hey, looks like there weren't actually any Jewish slaves in Egypt, because the fun fact, that never happened. Yep. There's no evidence that ever fucking happened.
Yeah, like, you don't build the greatest fucking achievement of all time with slave labor. It's skilled artisans that you pay well and feed well.
Yeah, certainly not Jewish slaves. They're not good at manual labor.
Yeah, even slaves in the American South set back the average farmer, because they were like, well, I can't afford any slaves, and that guy's got 1,000, so I'm pretty fucked. Like for the average person, slavery does not work out beneficially. Like it works in like an oligarchic setup. But regardless, the whole biblical thing of faith is totally a construct that God has to give you in order for you to have it in a high enough level to accept what he says without questioning it. Like that's the biggest thing that put me against religion. It was like, oh, so he gives the gift of faith to certain people. Like he actively will like intervene and like do little fucked up things, and then also be like, nah, I'm gonna cause that typhoon in Haiti, but I'm not gonna do shit about kids with AIDS.
Religion makes me feel like an asshole for looking for like even the smallest bit of proof, the smallest bit of proof that can't easily be explained in some other way, and that just sums it up. I mean, it's been said before, no proof, none, no evidence. And people who buy it are just like, oh, you're just denying all the evidence you do see. No, you are.
Yeah, I understand why people do, because like I would rather be religious than agnostic about everything.
For sure.
Like it would be way better if I could, but like this is a thing that I've said that has like caused a lot of religious people I've talked to about this to question it for a second, is that belief isn't a choice. You can't choose to believe something. You can, if you think God is a retard, you can lie and pretend to believe something, but God probably isn't a retard if he knew you in the womb before he formed you. Like that's probably not a thing. Like that's the most compelling argument against religion, I think, is that you can't choose to believe this. No matter how hard I try, day in and day out, I can't believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. I don't believe it. I can't force myself to.
Yeah, and even if he is real, he seems like a real piece of shit.
Well, Jesus was pretty dope. The Old Testament God was pretty shit, though.
Yeah, I'm talking about that guy.
He's the epitome of a Bronze Age tribal god.
Yep.
And
vengeful, jealous, all that stuff.
Vengeful, jealous, very possessive. Compare him to the contemporaneous gods of the Hittites, the Ammonites, any other group back then, and you'll see the exact same thing. The Egyptians were around back then. They had fucking Ammon-Ra and Osiris. Very similar tale.
Yep. So is Baal. Like it's just the whole thing is it's absurd to get into it's fine if you want to. And look, I think I've said it before. I think it's a really good way to live your life for the most part until you start being one of these mega preachers who's just milking your congregation. You become a scam artist essentially to get your private jet. And I'll never forget the guy who came to our car dealership, and he was a mega church preacher, and he was trading in his Hummer to get like something equally extravagant. This is when Hummers were cool, and it had like big fucking chrome rims. It had alligator skin on the dash, which was so cool, and the seats were some other kind of maybe ostrich skin. And then like this was a time when plasma screens were fucking crazy expensive, and they were everywhere. The seat backs all had them. There was a big flip down one. Like it was just this ridiculous, extravagant car that I can almost understand the private jet thing. Like I've heard those guys explain it, and it's like, look, if Jesus were alive today, he probably wouldn't be on a donkey. He'd need a G6, right? He'd want to get around. He'd want a dope ass jet, right? I mean, he would, but he wouldn't want an alligator skin Hummer. I don't think. He'd be an electric car guy.
Those disgusting, despicable priests and pastors who do that shit and make that much money. They are like the living embodiment of the Pharisees, who Jesus roundly rebuked, because the Pharisees were the huge. At the time in that region, it was Judaism that was dominating, and the Pharisees were the big, the head honchos of that movement. And they were all about, making a big scene in public, oh, the Lord and everything. And Jesus came out and said, when you pray, enter into your inner chamber and shut your door and do it in private. He said that in Matthew. Like he said that, and he used them as the big example. So all these fucking fakers that are out there pretending to speak the truth, like even them, they know enough about the Bible to know they're misleading people. They do. And like I do not accept the ignorant, they're just doing their best nonsense. No, they fucking know exactly what they're doing. There's a Popoff, P-O-P-O-F-F. There was a preacher who used to have something pop off. He used to be one of those big preachers who'd go up there and spread the word of the Lord. And he had his wife with an earpiece in, and he had an earpiece in, and she would talk to people who were going to go up to him, and she would relay to him what their issue was so he could better and more appropriately respond to it.
No.
Looks what like you wanted to jump in, Kyle.
Yeah. What would happen was this was one of those churches where the guy heals you. The preacher's going to heal you, and when you walk in, you write down your name and what's wrong with you, and that corresponds to your seat. So she'd be in his ear, like, telling him who to pick and then what was wrong with them and their name. And with that information off the cuff, you seem like Jesus Christ himself, right? That person is if a guy downstage picked you out of a crowd of 10,000 people, knew your name and what was wrong with you, and you're already there believing, of course, looking for salvation, you would instantly start believing. Then he comes over, slaps you on the head and says you're cured. You're going to start fucking dancing whether you got arthritis or not. Yeah, what a big ripoff. And you could hear her in his ear. They have the recordings. Of her. She goes, I can't remember his first name, but she's like, are you there, Tim? You better hope you can hear me. Because our scam ain't going to work if you don't.
Yeah, it's profoundly manipulative what these fucking scumbags do to people. And they always, like, there's one clip of a guy, like, swinging his own suit jacket at other people.
I love it.
And like big swaths of people go out.
It's not just the guy who gets touched. Yeah, it's like when Sauron has the mace and he's boom, like, and not just the one guy in front of him, the 7 people behind him. Like, that's what he was doing. And even after he finished swinging the coat, if I recall correctly, he did things like Kamehameha waves from Dragon Ball Z, where he was like, "Gah!"
like the food that we eat and all the.
So the lowering in tea is from many different factors. One is tap water, the soaps people use, the plastic we use, the foods we eat, these phones we use, the electronics we use, everything basically we have in this world, it lowers your testosterone. The vape stuff, that lowers your T. Smoking weed lowers your T. Smoking cigarettes that's made in the U.S. lowers your T. Tobacco by itself can actually not all those chemicals added. There's a whole bunch of different things that can lower your T over time. And if you just put your body through all of that, like if you look at Amish people, for example, a lot of these Amish people, they don't get autism, they don't get heart attacks, they don't get diabetes or any really diseases or cancers. Mm-hmm. They live in a world without all this garbage that we use that's poisoning us. Like the phone is useful, yes, but it has a cost. It has a price for it.
I wouldn't swap places though. I'll take the cancer. Those Amish fucking losers, like the ones that are out there actually Amish life in it for realsies. Like,
dude, I bet there's so much happier. Die. There's so much
Amish people
because they don't know any fucking better.
Is okay. I was reading about this. They're good with electric bicycles now, which feels really high tech, but they're just like, just better than a horse and buggy, better than a regular.
I don't like that. That's cheating. That's not in the spirit of it. I want the Amish to stay Amish.
It's not a real Amish if they're doing it. Then why?
They're Mennonites if they're doing that.
They would dress like real Amish.
Drink? No,
I think they brew cider or some shit and drink it every year because I've seen so many Amish DUI videos where the cop's like, "Hey, pull over!" God damn it, he's asleep in there, and the horse is running away with him. He's asleep in the buggy, passed out, drunk, and the horse is. He goes, hell, the horse knows the way home.
I mean, probably like true that the horse has been that way before. The horse knows Jebediah's just taking a nap. It's fine. My grandpa still randomly will bring up Yellowstone when like I'm down at his house about like how stupid it is, and he'll like the things he dislikes are so funny. Well, he'll be like, "That's like," my grandma will be like, "I was watching that show Yellowstone, but he hates it now." And he'll be like, "Shit, I saw those fuckers walk in. It was the cleanest barn I ever saw. They just ran 2,000 head of cattle through it, and it's the cleanest barn I ever saw. That's not what it looked like. They're changing. Apparently, they did not move from pasture to pasture in a way that was correct. Like they just moved. They got them out in the pasture, and they're talking about they got to take them down. They're done to that pasture. Look at the length of the fucking grass. They just got to that pasture. Like,
that's so you know how they go from pasture to pasture? They're like, this is really dangerous. So to minimize the risk, we're going to race down this mountain as fast as we can.
Yeah.
And that way we won't be doing it.
The truth about cattle ranching is
they're great downhill runners.
It's putting along at walking pace so nobody gets scared. And the actual like skillful part is catching the stragglers who get lost and stuff and like getting them back. That's the only time you're driving cattle is like, dude, you're back here. The herd's a mile away. Yeah. And you're like, the
goal is not to be like, we need to spook them all the correct amount at once in that direction. It's like, no, then you don't have cows anymore.
Our cows would get out all the fucking time and escape. They're very intelligent. Like
Can they jump a fence
so high? These big fat literal heifers can jump over your goddamn head. And if they crash the fence,
really, I'm like 6'6".
Yeah, I know. 7'6" maybe. Depends what you're standing on. Really. I've seen, and if they don't quite make it, there's still a 1,200-pound animal, so they just crush it. I saw one lose a teat jumping over a fence once. She didn't fucking care. They're hard fucking core.
And they also like once with the jumping thing, sometimes all it takes to teach them that that fence is not scary is one of them getting over it. And then they all instantly know like, wait, this thing we've been worried about is nothing. And then they'll all just start barreling through it.
Something I've never understood. When your electric fence stops working, they find out that day, which means they are always testing the electric fence. Or they can hear some sort of electromagnetic hum that's imperceptible to us. I'd love for a scientist to actually look into that instead of how to turn children into monsters or something. That would be get into the cows, guys. Like figure that out because that fence would go off.
Make them 3 times as big, more meat.
Which means somebody tests, and it hurts, right? It's fucking. I don't know if y'all ever been zapped by an electric fence.
A friend of mine, when I was like 10 years old, me and my buddy Alex, we went down to my grandparents' farm because we like to like paintball and ride ATVs and mess around on the farm. And we were up by an electric fence, and my buddy Alex was like, "I'm gonna pee on it," and like what we know now through MythBusters is that if you pee on something, usually it's like all the droplets, like it's not a continuous stream back to you by the time it gets there.
I peed on it, nothing happened.
Yeah, and he was going to, and I told him not to. And in my head, I was like about to see like I remember the thought I had was the same thought of like, oh my God, what happened to Marv in Home Alone 2 is going to happen to Alex.
Picturing it.
Yeah, I was picturing as he's holding the fucking thing. Dude, that scared me. And then he does a skeleton for a second. That scared the shit out of me.
Well, see, Kevin looks at him and he's screaming in pain and convulsing from the electrocution. And Kevin thinks, oh, he needs more, and starts turning the amperage up on the stick welder. He's got this he's got a fucking stick welder hardwired into the goddamn sink. And when he turns it up, Marv's screaming goes to a much higher pitch, and he turns into a skull that you can see with hair.
Yeah, he like flashes to like skeleton and back, and that really, I would look away during that part. I would like get up and like pretend I had to get a snack when I was like 8 years old watching that.
That's Home Alone 2, I believe.
Home Alone 2, Lost in New York.
Donald Trump in that one, in one part. He gives Kevin directions. Good guy. I've been shocked by a fence a lot. We always had electric fences in the pasture in the house. Well, no, because
I walk up to it every day. I found out I would test it.
I like to play with it. I liked getting zapped with it. One thing you should know is if you've got shoes on with rubber soles, which is all shoes in existence, you won't get shocked at all. You know, you can just hang on to that wire and you'll feel it. You're grounded slightly because rubber isn't. No, it's true. Rubber isn't a perfect insulator, so you'll feel like this little tap.
This feels a little like when I told everyone battery acid tastes good. Like, this is terrible advice.
First of all, it does taste good. So does antifreeze used to, until big fucking, I don't know, pussy boy came in and made everything safe. But no, you can hang right onto it. It won't hurt you. And unless you take your shoes off. You can take your shoes off and you grab that motherfucker, and then you feel what the cattle are feeling. And it feels like a real hard punch in the body. It's significant because it's a pulse. And at first you're like, is it? And then it hits you. The other way you could fuck up is I would have my hand on it and I'd be walking along. And if you're not paying attention, your hand will also touch the metal fence post, which will also ground you. So then you'll get shocked in your hand incredibly painfully. Mm-hmm. What you can also do, and this is hardcore, I would show people the trick. You got shoes on? Doesn't hurt. They'd be hanging on to it. I take my shoe off, put it on the ground, ground myself, and grab them. Now we both get the real dose. It's great. You can do the same thing with the spark plug on my ATV, my 4-wheeler. You could. That thing's incredibly painful. I don't know much about electricity, like amperages and voltages. It's all numbers, but it hurt.
You did not have a lot to do at times.
No,
like just making up activities, and
we fought wasps. We fought wasps. That was our favorite game. We made
shooting them with the 22.
No, we made gadgets and weapons and bee suits, and we fought them all summer. It was our favorite thing to do. There's nothing to do. We're on a farm. Like you could fish. It's too hot to fish. Like the sun's beating down on you. Like there was,
we're out of wasps' nests. It's going to be a terrible summer.
When we ran out of wasp nests, then we had to find other shit. We would shoot stuff. Job. I would shoot stuff and blow stuff up. That's all I did for fun. I would just, make little devices and play with guns and blow things up and experiment. There was nothing else to do, and everybody loved it. Whenever somebody would come over and hey, wait, what do you want to do? Hey, there's an old dead cow in the pasture. You want to blow her up? Yes, yes, we do want to blow up your dead cow. Why didn't you tell us that's what we were doing today? Is this a
thing that has utility, or it's just fun?
Just fun. It's completely full of maggots. It was really disgusting.
You do it in front of the other cows. Set the tone.
But if you told me, like, I don't know, if you blow a cow into 600 pieces, it decomposes faster. And...
You should bury them. But this one had died and, blew her up a little bit. We blew up a pig one time, like a whole dead pig carcass. And there was, I'm not joking, Taylor, there was nothing left but the snout. That's all we found. They took the snout and put it in the grill of my truck without me knowing it. And I drove like 6 hours in the summer with a pig snout stuck in the grill of the truck. But when it blew up, what rained down, and every now and then I recognize this in Ukraine, is like these ribbons of fat and flesh that are created from a large explosion. It's lighter, it's very thin, like wispy stuff that rains back down. And I don't know exactly what it is, but it's flesh that's been exploded, and now it's this thin wisp of like a layer of fat or skin or something. But we turned that thing into mist. We put so much shit in it before we blew it up. I mean, it was.
That sounds like a fun Saturday.
It was. We bought it from an Amish man. Had to lie to him about what we were going to do to it because at first when we told him, he was really off on it.
Well, of course, he's Amish. That's probably against their religion. They don't.
A Mennonite.
A Mennonite. Well, they're more okay with blowing up pigs, but only if it's for work.
All the Mennonites I've met have been super into guns, like so much so that it's kind of scary. You get the same feeling you get when you talk to militia people. I know normal people don't talk to militia people, but if you ever talk to a militiaman, you can imagine. How about this? You can imagine what it's like talking to a militiaman.
Yeah, and that's what they see themselves as militiamen.
The Amish guys that I've talked to were all like so up on federal regulations for firearms and suppressors and full auto and everything, interesting in the gun world. And they all owned that shit. The same guys who wouldn't own a tractor had an AR-15 with a silencer and a scope and a fucking laser, you know?
That sounds fun.